It's April 14th, 2026, and tomorrow is Jackie Robinson Day. And this is the Commerce Riff, brought to you by the CPG Guys. 10 minutes of the news stories that matter most in commerce this week. I'm your co-host, PVSB, and I'm joined by Pop Raj, the father of pop stars, co-founder of Think Blue Consulting. Shri, how was Coachella? Any highlights to share?
Well, Peter, look, it's not every day that you have two kids in the business and you get to go backstage and your daughter introduce you to Trent Reznor from Nine Inch Nails, which is, of course, my highlight, watching him perform live later. And then meet the K-pop Demon Hunters, see Cat's Eye Live, their debut, hang out at the trailer, meet the entire Cat's Eye team. I hung out with Becky G, 35 million followers, Peter. How many do we have?
Not that many.
Just people from radio, from TV, other stars. It was just mind-blowing. I'm mind blown away. This was one heck of an experience when you do this as an artist, family parent, versus just going to Coachella, which I've done several times. It was mind-blowing. I'll leave it at that. And then, how did Nadia enjoy the picture of the K-pop Demon Hunters?
Seeing Cat's Eye on stage with the girls from Huntrix, that was mind-blowing for her. She absolutely loved it.
And where were you all this morning? At the beach or a movie?
No, this morning. Actually, today we went and saw the new Nintendo Super Mario Galaxy movie. Very exciting.
Nice.
All right, let's talk about a $1.2 billion bet on the gummy bear. This week, Unilever announced its acquisition of GRÜNS. That's G-R-U with an umlaut, N-S. It's a green supplement brand that, and I want you to sit with this for a second, has been on the market for less than 3 years. It was founded by Chad Janis in 23. GRÜNS was built around one brutally simple insight. For most people, the barrier to taking vitamins isn't cost or awareness. It's consistency, regimen. So Janis made them a gummy bear, a green gummy bear. And apparently, America said, sure. The brand scaled to $300 million in annual revenue in under 4 years. 10 million of its GLP-1 friendly gummies every day, and entered 7,000 retail doors, all while boasting a 95% weekly usage rate among its customers. That's not a supplement, that's a ritual. Unilever noticed. The deal is part of Unilever's stated strategy to focus on premium high-growth areas, particularly beauty and wellness, and the U.S. market. Products are sold direct to consumer and through Amazon, Target, Walmart, and Costco. Now, here's the portfolio play that makes this interesting from its CPG strategy lens. Unilever already owns Ollie Nutrition, Smarty Pants Vitamins, and Nutrafol, right? This isn't a one-off wellness experiment. This is a company methodically assembling a well-being house of brands, and GRÜNS gives them the crown jewel. A digitally native, culturally resonant, Gen Z-facing brand with the kind of repeat purchase behavior most CPG companies can only dream about. And context matters here. This is Unilever's first acquisition since agreeing last month to merge its food business with McCormick in a $65 billion deal. So as they shed the food assets, they're doubling down on wellness. The strategic pivot couldn't be clearer. Founder Chad Janis put it well, quote, with Unilever behind us, we can reach more people, move faster, and continue raising the bar on what an enjoyable daily wellness habit can be. The phrase enjoyable daily wellness habit, that's the unlock, Shri, because the supplement aisle has always had an efficacy problem, not science efficacy, behavioral efficacy. GRÜNS cracked the compliance code by making the product fun to take. And now Unilever gets to scale that behavior across its global distribution machine. For us in the commerce world, the signal is clear. Format is strategy. The gummy isn't a gimmick. It's a retention mechanic. And the brands that understand how to engineer habit are the ones attracting 9-figure acquisition checks. Crazy, right, Shri? Over to you.
Wild, man. Maybe we need to get into the GLP-1 gummy game. So, all that said, pour yourself something from the back of the bar for this one, because the Spirits M&A story of the year just got a whole lot more interesting. You all remember and recall that a few weeks back, Pernod, Ricard, and Brown-Forman announced they were in talks to create a merger of equals to global heavyweights seeking to reinforce their positions in the face of changing consumer patterns, tariff headwinds, and a category under real spending pressure. Big deal, global implications. We covered it here on the CPG Guys Riff. But then Sazerac, the maker of SoCo, or well-known Southern Comfort whiskey, entered the picture, reportedly making an approach to Brown-Forman about a transaction of their own. And the market reacted immediately because Brown-Forman shares spiked following the news. up over 11% at the time of reporting, a similar jump to what happened when the Pernod Ricard talks first broke out. Brown family, now in its fifth generation of control, suddenly has options, like real options. So let's break down what actually is at stake here, because these are two very different type of deals. A Pernod Ricard and Brown-Forman type would have a massive international dimension, combining French champagne brands, Jameson Irish whiskey, Absolut vodka, with Brown-Forman's American whiskey expertise, creating a global spirits leader approaching the scale of Diageo. It's cross-border, cross-category, category redefining play. Sazerac is something else entirely. A Brown-Forman and Sazerac combo would be a very different story. Both companies focused on the American market, together accounting for roughly 18% of the US spirits market and nearly 40% of American whiskey. That's not a global repositioning. We call that here on the CPG Guys a domestic fortress. And that antitrust number, 40% of American whiskey, is the number that will keep lawyers very busy if this thing moves forward. There's a notable cultural dimension here to both Sazerac and Brown-Forman are headquartered in Louisville, Kentucky. Sazerac remains 100% privately and family-owned, which for a fifth-generation family like the Browns, who've historically been fiercely protective of their independence, might matter more than any valuation spreadsheet on planet Earth. In 2017, they rejected Constellation Brands outright for that very reason. They know what not for sale feels like. Analysts are framing it this way. Pernod Ricard remains the more logical partner from a synergy standpoint, but Sazerac interest adds competitive tension. And competitive tension is a way of making deals more expensive, much more complicated. Ultimately, the family's preference for cash versus a stock-heavy merger structure may turn out to be the deciding factor. So we'll wait and watch here. And that's a conversation happening in boardrooms, living rooms that none of us are certainly in, Peter. Here's our takeaway. The spirits category is consolidating fast. The forces driving it, tariffs, shifting consumer behavior, premiumization pressure, and the need for distribution scale aren't going away anytime soon. Whether it's a Louisville handshake deal, get it, Louisville handshake deal, or a Paris-led global merger, Brown-Forman is going somewhere. The only question is, which of the two paths and which direction does it take? Well, I guess you're going to jump onto something very, very interesting now, including, did I hear Apollo 13?
Sheree, we really do have to talk about this one because no media plan, no programmatic budget, no influencer deal, nothing could have brought what Nutella got last week. Absolutely nothing. So here's what happened, Sheree. Just 3 minutes and 52 seconds before the Artemis II crew broke a 56-year distance record, becoming the humans farthest from the Earth since Apollo 13, a jar of Nutella floated gracefully across the Orion spacecraft on a NASA live stream. The jar drifted into frame, showed off its label like it was a planned advertisement, and delivered a product shot so pristine it looked storyboarded, perfectly lit by the eternal void of space. Zero art direction required. The clip lasted 15 seconds. Those 15 seconds are now widely considered one of the most memorable moments of the entire Artemis II mission. And here's the part that makes the story even better from a brand perspective. Ferrero, which owns Nutella, was not informed in advance. They did not provide product to NASA or the Canadian Space Agency. The jar was simply included among personal food items authorized by the space agencies. This was not a stunt. This was not a sponsorship. This was a human being in space who wanted Nutella and happened to let it float. Ferraro's response? Pitch perfect, Sri. The Ferraro group put out a statement saying they were over the moon to see how an unexpected glimpse of Nutella spread a smile to fans. Even in space, quote, we always knew Nutella is out of this world, unquote, they said. Now we have proof. And on social, the brand wrote, honored to have traveled further than any spread in history, taking spreading smiles to new heights. Rocket emoji, heart emoji. Done. Now, critically for us, this wasn't just a cute moment. Other brands noticed and jumped immediately. Smucker's Uncrustable posted a viral Instagram showing an Uncrustable hovering over Earth and promised the entire Artemis II crew a lifetime supply upon splashdown. That is newsjacking at its finest, Shree. What does this moment actually mean for CPG marketers? UVA's Darden communications expert Steve Soltis put it well. Viral moments like this reinforce brand love, create a halo effect for millions of existing fans, and likely bring in new ones. And capitalizing on them publicly is also an excellent way to boost internal morale for the team behind the brand. But here's our take. The Nutella moment worked because of something deeper than luck. It sat at the intersection of several forces that shape attention on the modern internet. A major public event, a visual oddity, a globally recognized consumer brand, a familiar household object inside an extraordinary environment, and a reaction cycle that moved faster than any planned campaign could. That's the formula. You can't manufacture it, but you can be ready for it with a social team that moves fast, a brand voice that's already established, and the self-awareness to get out of your own way and let the moment breathe. Nutella didn't go into space to sell product. It went because an astronaut wanted a snack. And that's exactly why it worked out of this world, literally. Shri.
I believe Smuckers has offered free crustables for life to the poor astronaut. So we'll see if that comes true, whether that's a marketing story. But it is wild, Peter. Sometimes you get a gift, and this one you get a celestial gift, and both the companies got a celestial gift. Both brands got a celestial gift. Let's leave it at that. Well, upfront season is upon us, and if you're a CPG brand marketer heading into these negotiations the same way you did 3 years ago, we actually need to have a conversation. This is not your father's upfront, not your older siblings, not your older mother. The upfront used to be about one thing: television, specifically broadcast television, over the air, then cable. Specifically, the networks control the inventory, buyers needed reach, and the annual May ritual locked in those deals that fuel the fall season. But that world is long gone at this stage. The new reality is Amazon is holding its own upfront on May 11th at the Beacon Theater in New York. On the same night at NBCU at Radio City Music Hall. That's not a footnote, that's a statement. And who's going to be there, Peter? Can you say it for our audience, please? The CPG Guys. So what should brand advertisers actually be watching for? And we're going to break it down. First, follow the eyeballs, not the legacy relationships, even though that's still prevalent. In last year's market, streaming commitments grew to $13.2 billion, 61% increase from just 2 years prior, while total linear TV upfront sales sat at $17.8 billion, down 3% from the year before. That gap is closing fast, and the dollars are following the eyeballs. Needless to say, if your agency's still weighing linear the way they did in 2022, you need to ask some hard questions before you sign one thing. Secondly, sports is the last must-buy on linear, and everyone knows it. The combination of relative scarcity, size impressions, has made sports the last must-buy in a time when younger adults have otherwise ditched traditional TV. Season to date, the 18 to 49 set accounts for a mere 12% of the Big Four's live plus same-day deliveries during the nightly primetime block, compared to 33% of NBC's Sunday night football audience being adults under 50. So if you're a CPG brand trying to reach a working adult, sports inventory is not optional. It's kind of like the whole game for you. Third, stop thinking in channels, start thinking in ecosystems. So since 2026 Upfront Planning Guide argues that linear, streaming, and FAST should be treated as an integrated ecosystem, with each attracting a distinct audience profile. That means your media plan can't just be a bucket of GRPs and a streaming line item. Each platform is a different viewer, different age, different engagement mode, different purchase behavior. Your creative and your messaging must reflect all of that. And fourth, this is the one CPG marketers specifically need to hear. Do I need to say it again? Retail media is eating your upfront budget from the inside. Agency execs report widespread client budget increases for retail media in 2026. Spending growth outpacing other channels. Budget migration is primarily coming from television, audio, traditional shopper media to platforms like Amazon, Walmart, Albertsons, and Kroger. And notably, no client surveyed is decreasing retail media investments versus a year ago. Finally, outcomes are the new currency. Today's advertisers view TV as a dual-purpose tool, driving measurable performance while reinforcing brand memory and positioning. If a seller can't tell you what outcome you're buying, not just what impressions you're reaching, slowly towards the exit bottom line. The 2026 Upfront is a portfolio negotiation across linear, streaming, fast, live sports, and retail media all at once. Close it out, Mr. Bond.
As we wrap up, a reminder to catch up with our recently released episodes featuring Jason O'Toole and Katie Tripodi from Gildan and Kim Lefko from Ace Hardware. That's a wrap on this week's Commerce Riff. If any of this sparked a thought, drop a line in the comments. We actually read them. And if you're not already following us on LinkedIn, Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, and YouTube, now's the time. We'll see you next week. The content in this podcast episode is provided for general informational purposes only. By listening to our episode, you understand that no information contained in this episode should be construed as advice from CPG Guys LLC or the individual author, hosts, or guests, nor is it intended to be a substitute for research on any subject matter. Reference to any specific product or entity does not constitute an endorsement or recommendation by CPG Guys LLC. The views expressed by guests are their own, and their appearance on the program does not imply an endorsement of them or any entity they represent. The views expressed by CPG Guys LLC do not represent the views of their employers or the entity they represent. CPG Guys LLC expressly disclaims any and all liability or responsibility for any direct, indirect, incidental, special, consequential, or other damages arising out of any individual's use of, reference to, or inability to use this podcast or the information we present in this podcast.